This podcast provides a platform that will share many different points of views that should empower you, uplift you, make you want to go out and do right. When you hear the term still a man, say, yes, I am. Still a man. Yes, I am. Still a man. Yes, I am. Let's go.
People, welcome to another episode of the Still a Man podcast. Tonight, basically, we're going to do this in observance of Black history. We're going to try to talk about some issues pertaining to Black history for the next probably 3 episodes after this one. Tonight's topic is Black history, and this is how it follows: emancipation, segregation, integration, celebration, devastation. So again, this is what our Black history has been made up of thus far. It starts out with emancipation, segregation, integration, celebration, devastation. And just so we clear about it, when we're talking about emancipation, we are referring to Emancipation Proclamation, officially known as Proclamation, I believe, 95 or 94. So don't take my word for it. Just look it up. Take the time to look it up. Do some fact checks. But we're gonna get started. So, guys, how many of you watched the videos in advance?
Anyone? I watched a couple of them.
I didn't watch them all. I watched most of them.
All right. So this is the pleasure of live TV, so to speak. We're gonna watch them again. We have about probably 6 of them. They're very short videos. I think the longest one is probably like 4 minutes or less. The first video that we're going to watch is going to tell us about emancipation. So you guys, I think that you might have an idea of what it is. Before we get started, before we roll that video, Gregory, let's go around and let's see what people feel. Let's give people's perspective, their point of view, their definitions of what is Black history, basically. What is Black history? Let's start with the ladies. Patsy, you grew up in a public school system. What did they teach you about Black history?
Basically the history of the Black history in America, like who different figures are in, like Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr. Just a few different people around Black history, and how, slavery ended and the Civil War and stuff. Just different things that this civil rights that happened in America to for the freedoms of Black history in this country.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's fair. That's right to the point. So you Boston Public education, school education. Yep. All right. Tanya, you want to tell us about yours? Did you get a public school education too? What they teach you about Black history? But you was in what region, what state was you in when you received your formal introduction to Black history?
I went to school in Cincinnati and Louisville and Boston. So I had a little bit of learning all over the place. But
Was it any different? Like was the Cincinnati public school system like that?
well,
Curriculum?
I did elementary in Cincinnati, and the it was called American History, and we had the month of February where they taught Black history, and it was a snippet of slavery and a snippet about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. We barely covered any scientists, any mathematicians, you know, black people. That area was barely scratched. And when I went to school in Louisville, it was more middle school, and it was called, like I said, American history. We did most of that where we learned about the presidents, and it was a snippet on Martin Luther King, and you know, the same thing going from Louisville to from Ohio to Louisville. And then when I got to Massachusetts, I was doing some high school schooling where the same type of situation, but it was more integrated where you learn more about Black people and the scientists and the astrophysicists and all that.
So you didn't get an introduction to the other prominent figures of Black history until you got into high school.
That's right.
Okay. All right, Timmy. Same question. What does Black history mean to you, and what was your introduction to it in the pub? Because you also grew up in the public school system.
Yeah, like Tanya said, we only learn few things about Black history. And, you know, I've always felt like it was more than just Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, because these are the figures that we learned about. And so in my high school year, in my senior year rather, which was '88, my senior year, uh uh KRS came out with 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 the song You Must Learn. And he started talking about the the creators of inventions and stuff. So once he started mentioning names, you know, I started going, you know, looking up these people, you know, because I go to the library and stuff like that. I was a library person because you couldn't, you know, the computers wasn't that big yet, but you can go to the library and pull books out about these different figures and stuff. So that's what made me, you know, really get into it and really learn about what we created, because that's I always wanted to know. And I always knew there was more than just those people that they had in the history books.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sean, same question. Did you, well, let me don't assume anything. Did you grow up here in Boston? Did you get a Boston public school education?
No, I was in Mecco, so I was in Westwood,
Mm-hmm.
but my story is similar to Timmy's. We graduated the same year, to where it wasn't until after, again, what Timmy said, KRS-One song came out, that I started hearing of different other prominent Black figures. Because, you know, we just had the basic five when I was
Mm-hmm.
coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until after that, and then well into my adulthood, that I even learned about the actual individual who actually pushed for the Black History Month to even be acknowledged, and
And I,
even learned how Black History, even how the month of February even became the signature month for it, because it wasn't even based off of solely all blacks. They had to throw a white man in there to actually acknowledge it. So the two prominent people were Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you to name the individual that spearheaded basically campaigned for this Black History Month.
Well, it was a guy by the name of Carter Woodson, Carter G. Woodson.
Carter G. Woodson. Okay, for all you guys that don't know about that, that's we because we live in a time where you can educate yourself every day, all day. So I think that's a name that we all should become more familiar with, because it almost seems like he's the one of our forefathers of Black History Month. So if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have that. So thank you, Sean, for that insight. And please continue.
No, that was it.
Okay.
And Dave too. We just can't just talk about the men, because there was some great women that was great inventors.
We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get into that. I just wanted to go around and get people's like formal like introduction. We're gonna get into that. We got a lot to cover. We're gonna talk about that. So if you're just joining us tonight, we are talking about Black history. And we are starting off with emancipation, segregation, integration, celebration, and devastation. That is the topic. It's a broad topic, but we're going to try to cover all those points tonight. So that's what it is. And if anybody's just now joining us, just make yourself known. I'm just going to keep going around the room. Gregory, you're up next. Well, actually, you know what? Hold that thought, because I want to come to you last, because you're the youngest member on the panel that I'm aware of currently. We're gonna go to Robert next, and then we're gonna come back to you, Gregory. Go ahead, Robert. Same question. What type of formal introduction did you get?
And you got Kiana and Deli that joined us.
Okay, thank you, ladies, for joining us. So we're gonna come. So actually, Gregory, in lieu of that, just learning that, you're gonna be the last person that I ask that, because I have a reason, a method to my madness. Robert, same question. What type of formal introduction did you get to Black history? All right, so we're gonna move right on to the next.
You don't have to go anywhere.
We're not doing that tonight. Same question.
My answer to that question would be in 3 words, maybe. What I learned about Black history in the cheapest schools ever, Boston Public Schools, I learned Black History Month means, or what they shared or taught us, was all about abuse, complaints, and semi-accomplishments.
And that's all you learned during Black history in Boston Public School?
That's all I learned.
I'm pretty sure that some of your providers, your educators, would be very upset with that overall that view of your education and your introduction. But that's your story, and everybody got a song to sing, and you're gonna teach us the words so we can sing along. We're gonna go to.
Oh, you talk about lift every voice and sing?
No, Timmy.
Cause that's the
That's the
Black
national Black anthem.
I might have. I walk right into that. Kiana,
You know that's the Black national anthem, right?
We get it. You can teach us later. Kiana, you ready to share?
Yeah.
You ready to share?
I'm like Sean. I went to a Metco school, so the foundation of Black history was not taught at all. If I could probably say, it was maybe 5 pages, very small unit of people. as the same foundational people, and that was it.
Okay, so the curriculum, the Black History curriculum, was very minute, and the MECL system. Now,
if it existed at all, yes.
And I'm a little bit like baffled whereas that's concerned, because when we was growing up, medical school was the elite of the elite. That was supposed to be the best education.
That has nothing to do with the curriculum. The curriculum is, as people still feel to this day, that Black people have not contributed to this country, so they don't have to learn their history.
Right. All right. Right. All right. But where I was going with that is because that's supposed to be the best of the best. So why wouldn't they be laying out the best type of curriculum for them, seeing that a lot of their stellar, their most educated, intelligent students came from the urban community, and it was people.
I don't think they were teaching that in MECO before they started allowing students of in the inner city, to come in to their schools. They wasn't teaching that then.
Just face it, David. They taught them minimum as possible, and it could be the three things I just described to you.
All right, Deli, go on and jump right in there. Where did you get your formal introduction to Black history?
Well, I was a Boston Public School student in my early ages, but when I got to middle school, they were doing that segregation busing in Charlestown, and they didn't do any Black history in there. It wasn't taught there. But when I got to Cambridge, that's where I finished out my school. When I got to Cambridge, that's when they had Black history class. And that's when I got the introduction of Black history, and not just the five. They were really elite, and they were covering all of inventors, all of the Black people that made a mark here, our ancestors, and even before our time. They were spoken of in Cambridge. And that's where I got mine.
I have to say that that's where my kids got their education in Black history too, was Cambridge. And my sons was even, I put them in a program on Saturdays, the W.E.D. Du Bois camp, where they learned even more about Black history.
Another prominent member of the Black Nation, that person that you just said, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
W.E. Boys.
W.E.B. Du Bois.
All right, so did we get anybody else joining in? Because I want to, before we go to Gregory, is that everybody? All right, Minister of Conspiracy, you up next. You are the youngest on the panel. Tell us what your formal introduction to Black history was.
I guess I can say I had a little bit of a different experience because I've been to the Boston public school, and I've been in a charter school, and I've been in an alternative school, which is majority Black. So when I went to the Boston public schools, it's like y'all said, the starting five. I don't know exactly who they are, but I know it might include Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King, and somebody else. I forget who the last person is.
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks. There we go. Starting five. They teach you about these people. And then when I went to the charter school, I don't remember Black History Month really being a thing in that school at all, to be honest with you, because we had all these projects we was doing. And I think because we had all the tests and college courses that we was doing, nobody wasn't paying attention to Black History Month. So no kids complained about it or anything.
And again, that I'm rather perplexed that is concerned, because again, even with charter schools, that's supposed to be turning out the best of the best. So I don't understand why you wouldn't want people to be as well rounded as possible, whereas it comes to information and education and intelligence. Knowledge is power.
When I went to the alternative school, it was majority Black teachers, majority Black kids. So they were teaching Black power in that school anyway. So one of my teachers was from Africa, and he was on some you need to go to Egypt stuff. So it was all kind of crazy in high school.
Also, this
Before I
was
graduated.
this is who
Yeah,
formally
that's where he
introduced
got
me to all
introduced.
the
Yeah,
conspiracies and things of
yeah.
nature.
Yes, sir.
You want to go ahead and
Uh-huh.
shout out your educator?
Oh, Mr. O'Brien, my dude, what up?
Okay. Okay. All right. So, again, what I said, what I find rather perplexed is that even everybody on this panel, no one said that they received a formal introduction to Black history at the footstool of their grandparents or their parents. And I would think that's where you would get your first introduction, seeing that they went through a lot of these things that we're going to talk about tonight. So,
Well, see, they taught you the things that you needed to know, as far as what they went through, that you wasn't supposed to go through hardship because they went through it for us, right? So all they're focusing on is taking care of their family and prospering and having a house and having money to be able to do whatever they wanted to do.
You have to remember that some of them had limited education to begin with, and they worked in
Exactly.
fields.
So
And their education was teaching their children how to survive and how to.
Because Unc told me that they taught him about Sambo in school, and that Black people eat watermelon and chicken.
Yeah, I don't find that hard to believe because he grew up in a time where racism.
Meaning they didn't have any books. They wasn't learning. They wasn't reading.
It was against the lottery for
Yes.
at a
Well,
Right.
actually, that's discrediting people of that time because Uncle is not that old where they did not have books in their
He
school.
told us that. He said that they didn't have books.
Well,
Right. He said that.
they probably didn't have books in the playground because he
He's
didn't
coming
spend
from
much
the
time.
time of the freedom writers, so they might have not have had real books in their school.
And he might have not seen too many of those books if he was, playing hooky. So
Just face
that's
it.
the reason why he didn't, have too much of a interaction with books. It probably wasn't that they didn't have them. He just wasn't there long enough to enjoy them. But shout out to Uncle because he's a very intelligent man. So anything that he did not get formally in the school system, he had enough wherewithal and will to educate himself later on in life. So shout out to him and others that have done so. Gregory, I think it's time that we get some facts, more of a formal introduction. Can we go to that first video?
On April 12, 1861, a single mortar shell shattered the pre-dawn sky, and the United States, just 85 years old, erupted into all-out civil war. Initially, for President Abraham Lincoln, the war was about a single overriding goal: saving the Union from the forces of secession in the American South, forces that were threatening to tear the Republic apart.
There was a ditty that people used to sing around Union recruiting that I think sums up what Lincoln's original orientation was. It went something like, I stand for the Union, all its foes I abhor. I ain't for the N-word, but I am for the war.
Soon after the war began, its focus began to change. When enslaved African Americans, forced to work in the Confederacy's defense, escaped behind Union lines.
Escaped slaves who run away to Union lines are called contraband. And what Union policymakers, including Lincoln, begin to recognize is this creates a welcome disruption among the Southern slaveholders. This deprives them of their property, it shuts down their plantations, and it makes their war effort more difficult.
The swelling numbers of contraband pushed President Lincoln to see that the Civil War was actually about abolishing the institution of slavery, ultimately leading him to issue the Emancipation Proclamation.
In many ways, the Emancipation Proclamation is first and foremost a military policy. It's not clear the Union is winning the war before the Emancipation Proclamation. So the Emancipation Proclamation also gives these escaped slaves the opportunity to serve in the Union Army. This is crucial to the Union's success in the war effort.
With the freedom of their people at stake, almost 200,000 black men enlisted in the Union Army and Navy, playing a pivotal role in bringing victory to the North.
The key element that changed the outcome of this war in terms of who won it and in terms of what it was about were the slaves themselves. Their determination that this war was going to be about the end of slavery. Masses of self-liberated slaves became the wave that the Union would ultimately ride to victory.
All right, so here we go. Let's start. So that's Emancipation Proclamation. Let's go to Robert first, because he said that this was absent from his education. So did you not learn about this in middle school or elementary?
I think that
That wasn't Black History Month, though.
I think what my problem was, I wasn't probably interested in learning about Black history. You know, that's how I am right now. It's not my first thing. I wake up in the morning and, oh, I want to learn about Black people. So that's how I was in school. I probably was being bad, or I probably was trying to teach the class myself.
Oh, okay. So did you? So
You got to sit home with notes every day.
So because you wasn't interested in Black history, did you pay attention in American history, U.S. history, or civics?
No, I was interested in math, adding up.
He didn't pay attention to Black history. Why he gonna pay attention to American history?
I mean, because there was an undertone of Black history in American history, like y'all said earlier. They brushed all over it, like they didn't give you an in-depth education or history of it, but they probably went over a little bit of it. All right, so Robert, I can't help you in this situation. You're gonna have to keep learning tonight. Deli, does any of this sound familiar to you? Deli? You have to unmute your phone. All right, Patsy. Do you agree with any of that you saw in this video about the Emancipation Proclamation? Or does any of that sound familiar?
Yeah, it sound a whole lot familiar. They just kind of like skirmish over some what this video was about, but they didn't go into full detail.
I mean, you got to give them an A for presentation. It was like watching a motion picture. I mean, you had the sound.
The video was great. I'm just saying, like in school, it's like it was talked about, but it wasn't too emphasized about it. You know, you did learn about the Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil War, and stuff like this, and what it was about, and stuff like that. You know.
Okay. Timmy, how'd you feel about the video?
Yeah. I saw I've learned about that, and they don't talk about the Buffalo Soldiers too, because they too play a big part in the Civil War.
See, shout out, you guys.
No, they talked about them, Uncle T. That was the people that was joining the war.
So
joining the Union.
He's referring to them by their formal name. But they called them contraband if they're referring to the same individuals.
Nah, the Buffalo Soldiers was the free ones.
Yeah, so they must have been from the. Sean, you want to shed some light on this? I mean, what do you know about this Emancipation Proclamation?
Again, it was created to although it was supposed to be geared to have us free and this and that and the other, it was pretty much a pacifier to those that were already slave owners.
Uh-huh.
And so there was like stipulation. It's just like what the Emancipation Proclamation was back then, it still holds today to where there's always rules and stipulations to the rights that they're fighting for.
Uh-huh. All these amendments, these modifications.
Right.
Well, because they left it open for that purpose too.
You are absolutely right, Timmy. You are absolutely right. There is, like, again, there is method to their madness. Kiana, you still with us?
Yeah.
All right, you wanna what did you get out that video, and how does emancipation how much of a segue is that into today's life, today's living?
I mean, we're still fighting for so many things that we've been fighting for since the beginning. So,
And what is that?
our freedom, our liberty, our equal
Human.
rights.
But I'm a little bit confused because according to that video, back in what they say it was 1863, when it was first introduced. But once 1865 arrived, we were supposedly given all that. So what's going on? Why are we still being persecuted? Why are we being prosecuted? Why are we
That's
being
a lie.
well, that's the American. Well, go ahead, Kiana. Go
That's
ahead.
the illusion to
Mhm.
make you think that you got what you got. And every time we get a step forward, somebody takes us 5 steps backwards.
With by force.
Yeah, by force, by trickery, robbery,
Oh yeah, well you know we
lies and deceit.
we've been victims of robbery for such that's how you've been robbed of a lot of things.
Yeah, it's not just us. It's a bunch of nationalities that's been robbed.
We're gonna stay the subject tonight. We're not talking about them. We're talking about our ancestors and Black history because this is Black History Month. We're gonna focus on Black history. I know we talk about this all the time. We don't need a month to celebrate our people and our accomplishments, but in lieu of let's say the holiday, the month of holiday, we're gonna be in observance of Black history, and we're gonna try to focus on those things. Gregory, what did that video mean to you? What did you get out of that video?
Some things was just bringing me back to why were they teaching us about Abraham so young? And you wouldn't really understand the words that, even though you might have had like those as spelling words and you had to learn the definition and write it down, contraband, you're not really thinking as a person as contraband when you're learning the word. So it probably goes over your head as it goes into your subconscious. So I'm just thinking about it now. Like, what the heck was they teaching? Why was they teaching us that then? They should have taught us that later on.
Well,
so you could really get a grip of what you're learning.
Let me say this to you guys. I don't know if you noticed, but people of color have been referred to by a lot of different names and stuff, a lot of different nouns and verbs and even adjectives and
Now,
pronouns. Other
That
than
contraband. Listen to
yeah,
that.
where
That
now they was referred to as contraband, livestock, but they didn't refer to them in most cases as human.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Everything but that.
Or man
Have
or
y'all
woman.
noticed that? You noticed that when they refer to
No, they didn't refer to him as a man until they joined the union. That's crazy.
I
Now they
don't
were
even
black men. All black
I
men
don't
joined
even
the
think
union.
well I
At
bet
first, it was contraband when they were saying the phrase that he had a quote. They didn't want no ends, no N words. It wasn't for the N word.
so that you didn't miss that. Okay, so let's talk about that. So even back then, you see how deeply rooted that word is in hate? Even as
Yep.
even as they're trying to enlist us or basically trick us into fighting for something that we should have been given all along, supposedly, because it's about equality, right? All men are treated fairly and equal and all this other stuff. But why is it that even back then you was fighting for something that you should have had? And like Keanu said, you're still fighting for it to this day. But even when they told them, because let's be clear about this, they stated in the video that Lincoln basically was trying to enforce something that he had no control over in the South. He had no say over the Southern slaves. It was already abolished in the North. I think they did it around about the same time as the independence of our nation. So the slaves up there was free in a sense. In certain states up north, in certain states, because they still had slaves up north too during this time. So down south, the
Can
south.
I say can I say something, David? Even though they was up north and you consider them as being free, meaning that they wasn't being controlled by a slave master, but they really wasn't, because they was working as what you want to say indentured service. They was working as maids, they was working as cooks.
Butlers,
Butlers,
So they just took them
drivers.
from
that's
the
all they knew.
field and put them inside the house and made them think that they was free, but they still was enslaved. They wasn't getting paid a fair wage.
No, they wasn't. Again, like I said, what happened to his
And then
father?
some of them was wanted slaves. Uncle D, you seen Django?
Oh yeah, I know, but this is what I'm asking you. This is what I'm stating to you guys. Those was in the states where slavery was supposedly abolished, but there was northern states that still exercised slavery. They still partook in it. They still practice it. There was not all the states up north were free states for slaves.
Well, that's why they went to certain states where
Exactly.
it wasn't like that. And
Exactly.
then you had the southern people up north who had family down there, still down there, because they moved from the south. They helping them get up here, get
Now,
up north.
Now let's talk about that South stuff. So down South they was enforcing slavery. They did not want to basically relinquish ownership. They wanted to continue to own the slaves. They also tried to police them too. They also had they not recruits, but people that would go out and bring back some of the free slaves. Like even
Yeah.
though these
The
people
slave
stayed up
catchers.
north, exactly, they had people
That's the
up
first
north.
police, the
Today's bounty
KKK.
hunters.
Don't say that again.
It was like today's bounty hunters.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yes.
So even back then, everybody that was let's remember, guys, we had people from the South that were plantation owners that left to go up north before the Civil War, and they took those best practices with them. So they still had that mindset. So let's say if Patsy, you was a slave and you escaped to the north, and Timmy, being a plantation owner, went up north, and you was one of his slaves that got away, they would try to take you back into captivity.
Yes.
That was their mindset. Or if they was visiting up north and saw you, they would try to recapture you and send you back down south, or they will hold you captive until they went back down south. They probably would even, I dare say they would have cut their visit short because they knew that there was going to be some pushback. So they probably would have captured you and took you out under cover of night.
Yes.
There wouldn't be no pushback.
Now, Dave, now you know our grandparents' history, right?
Sharecroppers.
Right. No, our grandfather was in the field, our grandmother was in the kitchen and the seamstress, right? And you see when they both moved up north, he went to a factory job, working at Domino Sugar House, right? And she was at a factory being a seamstress, So they what they knew best is what they survive off of.
Mm-hmm. So again, down south, they was not even trying to give up their slaves. This is what brought about the Civil War. Lincoln had a good plan, whereas again, he told people that he would free the slaves, but it was also to do away with the plantations and stuff like that too. So it was to cripple the South, their finances and stuff like that. So also they wouldn't be able to fight a war. But remember, there was also slaves that fought on the South side. Now I dare say that those slaves that was fighting, they was forced into the war. They had no choice. You know what I'm saying? Because they were slaves. So they told them to put on these uniforms, and they also put them on the front line. So now,
but they didn't think they would survive.
Well, that's been the story of our people for the longest. They give us basically no chance in hell, and we continue to what's her name? Maya says, "Still I rise." That's what we do. And speaking of that, there are those Confederate members that still believe, it's a great saying of theirs, it's a great mantra, it's a great belief, the South shall rise again. So they truly believe that. They're waiting for their chance to do it. This is why some parts of the South, you go down and you go to visit or you travel through, you might encounter some of these back road rednecks and all white supremacists and chartered members of the KKK. You can't go through certain areas.
It's called a sundown town. I don't know if y'all ever heard about it. I'm gonna do a think about it Thursday on it.
Get your ass out of town by sundown.
Yeah, see, I don't even want to be vacationing no place like that. I don't even want to be traveling to no place like that. I'd take a plane so we can fly over places like that. All right, so that brings us to the Emancipation Proclamation. So let's be clear about this. It started in 1963. The war went to probably 1866 or 65 is when they basically was able to enforce it. Once the North started winning the war. So what happens is, do you guys know what happened in 1865? That is also a big part of this thing. The person that was pushing for so they say, the freedom of slaves. Can someone tell me what happened to Abraham Lincoln?
He got shot.
That's right. The same year, 1865, because I believe it was the same year he was assassinated. When once this whole thing with the slaves being free. So I have a theory It may or may not be true, but this is my theory. I've been talking to my nephew, and you know, we was talking about this last night. I would dare say that those individuals from the South that did not want slavery to be abolished were so angry with Abraham.
Lincoln.
They put their resources together, their financial resources, and they had him assassinated.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Of course.
how you feel about that?
And you got to remember the politicians didn't hesitate to pull strings and get things done if they had to.
Now,
Or they send a telegram and some gun hole come into town. They don't know that that person's there to come to kill them. He just rode into town and the politicians done paid him.
So he gets assassinated. The bill goes through, and then after that, we fast forward to segregation. Gregory, you want to go ahead and show that video about segregation? Everybody, hold your comments until the end of the take notes if you feel free, if you feel the need to.
The history of segregation in the USA. The history of segregation, the enforced separation of whites and blacks, has its roots in slavery. Slavery was legal in the American South, and although the American Civil War put an end to this brutal practice, the situation for African Americans did not improve. The white ruling class of the ex-slave states promoted segregation under the deceiving slogan of separate but equal. There were separate schools for blacks and whites, separate waiting rooms, train cars, public bathrooms, restaurants, hospitals, drinking fountains, prisons, churches, theaters, and even separate cemeteries. The racist laws that made this possible, the infamous Jim Crow laws, were not interested in equality, but in keeping the black population in an inferior position. Blacks were discriminated against in education, jobs, and housing. Laws were passed so as to make it impossible for blacks to vote, and it was illegal to publicly ask for equality between whites and blacks, or to contract interracial marriages. By World War II, in the American South, every aspect of life was segregated. Against this, civil rights movements began to form. They asked for desegregation, and they organized marches, protests, boycotts, and acts of civil disobedience. One of the first acts of this kind happened in 1955, when Rosa Parks, an African American, refused to give up her bus seat to a white passenger. She was arrested for this act of civil disobedience. The greatest civil rights march happened in 1963 in Washington. 250,000 people listened in front of the Lincoln Memorial as one of the greatest leaders of the movement, Martin Luther King, held his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. He dreamt the end of racism in the United States and equal rights for all. The civil rights movement fought hard but peacefully against bigotry, racism, unjust laws, as well as terrorist groups like the Ku Klux Klan, who defended white supremacy with violence and murder. One of the casualties of this long struggle was Martin Luther King, who was assassinated in 1968. His dream, though, was partly realized. In 2009, Barack Obama, the son of an African father from Kenya and a white mother from Kansas, became President of the United States. He moved into the White House, which had been built by slaves, in the U.S. Capitol that was principally segregated in 1961, the year he was born. There is still a lot to do to make the lives of blacks and whites truly equal. Today, the fight of the civil rights movement lives on in organizations such as Black Lives Matter.
Okay, so let's talk about it. Now we are living in the time of segregation. So we was told that we was free, but the people down south said, you don't tell me what to do. We're gonna do what we've been doing. We just gonna switch it up a little bit. So we still gonna control how people of color are going to live, because again, what they said, separate but equal. So I don't know. You can't make sense out of nonsense. I'm a rational thinker. Separate means to divide, to remove. So how can you be equal if you're not united? So someone speak on that. Kiana, you want to talk about that separate but equal I guess law that they had?
I mean, just like she said, it was a guise to create the illusion that there was equal, but when you're separate and you're treating people differently, it's really not an illusion. They're not being treated fairly the same, or they don't even have the same equal rights as you. Mm-hmm. So it's a way to maintain their power that they had over Black people.
All right. So let me see. Patsy,
I mean, I agree with it, but you know, Martin Luther King said everybody be treated equal, right? And so we can't forget the white people that helped the Black people in their time in need when they put their lives on the line as well, you know, of being hung, being called traitor, being called nigger lover, and all that. So
well, if they were the majority of people, we wouldn't still be fighting. They're a minority group, but we're not going to stick up for them.
Exactly.
We're fighting. It's a fight against the system and not people.
Because they took that that master mentality and embedded it in the Jim Crow laws.
Mm-hmm. That was the foundation of those laws. And what I was going to ask Patsy is, did you notice during the video where the great speech of Martin Luther King was held, the positioning? Did you hear that?
Yeah, it was at the Abraham Lincoln Memorial.
Okay, so now remember, Abraham freed the slaves, was assassinated for doing so. Martin was preaching in front of the slaves, and I just want to show. I mean, the monument of the person
and he was assassinated.
There you go. You get it.
So, and also, JFK stood up and passed a lot of laws that were along the lines of what Lincoln was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And he was assassinated also around the same time.
After meeting with Martin.
Yeah. Yep, him and his brother Robert.
Now, what I was going to show you guys is this. Now, so 1863 is when the whole talk about the Emancipation Proclamation came about, right? Mm-hmm. And then in 1865 was when it came to fruition, so to speak, right? Almost 1 year shy of 100 years. Exactly. That's when the whole what you call it, the civil rights the bill to end segregation, right? But during that time, the prominent individuals that was trying to bring about the necessary change to bring about equality for supposedly all men and women, all creed, nationality, race, those people, they especially Martin, he took the nonviolent approach, but his life ended violently. Abraham, same thing. His life ended violently. Kennedy, his life ended violently. And let's not forget about Malcolm. When he decided to take the nonviolent approach, change his views about certain things, and wanted to work with other people outside of the Islam, his life was violently taken.
Well, because here's the thing. It's always been a proven fact that when black folks protest, they don't get violent unless the people who's supposed to be protecting and serving get, ignorant, and then that's what make the black folks go into, getting violent. But other than that, we peaceful. And so when the black folks, just like Black Lives Matter, they're peaceful protesters, right? But you always got the other side, those people who want to bring it back to the Jim Crow days and whatnot. They'll come in and knowing that these people are protesting peacefully, they'll get violent with them by attacking them or trying to assassinate them by, just come out shooting and be proud about doing these things. Mm-hmm. But like I said, we as a whole, we don't get violent unless people turn violent towards us.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know what I want to say?
Can I say
go Patsy, wait 1 second, Tanya. Let Patsy go first and then you, Tanya. Go ahead, Patsy.
Okay. You know how like a lot of these laws got changed, so it's like legally you're not supposed to from across the country, we're not supposed to be racist and judgmental and not. If I was to hire somebody, I can't judge somebody on their race, right?
So they say
a lot of these states, they still have it on the books, state by state, especially on southern state laws. Mm-hmm. They disregard the federal law and go according to their state laws. Mm-hmm. And so if I don't want to hire you as, me being white, you being black, if I didn't want to hire you because of the state law, I can go by the state law and forget the federal law.
And you can get away with it.
Exactly.
All right, Tanya, you want to jump in there? Go ahead, T.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that being enslaved, we was broken physically, and then you had Abraham Lincoln that freed the black people physically, but we were still enslaved mentally. And then Martin Luther King came along, him and Malcolm X come along to help free our minds, to break the bondage of our minds. But our spirits, they're trying to break our spirits now. Then they were assassinated. Now they're trying to break the spirit of the people. They couldn't hold us down physically and couldn't keep us captive mentally, but now they're trying to spiritually break us.
Yep. Because again, what does the enemy come to do?
Still kill and destroy.
So I was gonna say this to Uncle T. Uncle T, when you said we're nonviolent and we do the peaceful protest, and these people came to steal, kill, and destroy, which they did successfully. Mm-hmm. It's crazy how you think about it that way, because it's almost like they done broke us to where we're scared. But I was gonna say, this is also a slap in the face. Have you thought about the name of these things? Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow is a character that was played by a white guy that seen a homeless black person doing playing instruments.
Remember, they wasn't considered that back then.
No, I'm saying no. That's what they based it off from the Jim Crow laws. They used that name. So when they used that name, knowing what Jim Crow was about and made it a law for black people, it's like a slap in the face. Even for the name civil rights, you're fighting to be a civilian, and we've been doing it for over 200 years. That's crazy.
Now,
and we're still fighting to be civilians.
That's
crazy.
Look, let's get Robbie back into this conversation. So, Robbie, let's go back to this whole segregation part. Are you with us, Mr. Brimage?
No, he's with us, but he's on mute.
I don't know. See, I'm trying to give you a chance before I go on.
Well, what's the chance you're trying to give me?
So here we go. How you feel about this whole segregation stuff that time? So they're living during a time where they're protesting for their rights and stuff like that. They're even boycotting certain situations, and they're using the nonviolent approach, and they're still being treated badly. The marchers, the peaceful protesters, they're being beaten by the officers of the law. They're being attacked by dogs. Water hoses are being set upon them. Children that were there part of the so-called the peaceful, it initially was a peaceful protest on their part, but the children were being attacked too. So there was no type of humanity being shown, no type of empathy, sympathy, just common respect for human decency. Was none of that. So we're going to talk about, I got to ask you about how you feel about the individuals that claim that there was going to be equality for all men and women, and then you can't even go into a restaurant, because let's talk about this segregation with separation. Now, you could work in these white establishments, but you couldn't enter through the front door. You had to enter from the back. And if you was fortunate enough in that southern state to be able to purchase food from a diner or a restaurant, you had to go to the back door to get your food. You probably was charged more money than the white customers.
Of course.
But you still had to go to the back door and get your food. How you feel about that?
I feel that, that's wrong. I truly believe that back then, white people thought low of black people. They thought that they didn't know much because their education was very low. So they can tell them one thing, something like, I'll tell you what you want to hear, but I'll show you something different. And that's what they was doing to them, getting away with it for so long. And still to this day, they still getting away with some things because our race as a whole don't talk the same language. We don't move the same footsteps. We're not even breathing the same air at times. We're so much fixated on individuality instead of together as a team. So I feel bad, and me being born in 1900s is God's blessings, because I probably would have been dead in their time.
You definitely would have been.
Well,
you did. There's no question about that, because you have a strong will, and you like to speak your mind, and you like to be out front. So yeah, they didn't take too kindly to people. Like I would dare say, all of us on this panel would have been subjected to some violence, because we're all very opinionative, and you just can't tell us something without us doing the research. Gregory, you would have definitely, yeah.
I was gonna say there was people like me. They would have, but I would have probably been a little bit different. We wasn't gonna go and sit in a restaurant knowing that after we got spit on and called all types of names, the
You would have
police
been
was gonna
strapped
come
for
in
sure.
and
Oh,
beat us up too.
Yeah,
We
Gregory.
gonna go in there and we sticking the joint up
You see,
today.
Yeah,
you see,
yeah.
and this
You
is
This
definitely
is
and
our
see.
restaurant now.
I
God,
could definitely see
everybody get
you
out.
hanging in the middle of town, getting your ass whipped by that whip.
see, because even back then, after
But
they
we
stopped.
going out guns a blazing, Uncle T. I don't know what you talking about. It's
Okay,
gonna
so
be a wild, wild west movie.
let me ask you. Let me go to someone else. So
Now,
hold
see
on,
what I
Tim.
see
Hold on,
there
Tim.
too.
Hold on. One question. Hold on, because I want to ask this question. Is Deli still with us? Okay, I think we lost her.
I
Kiana,
don't think so.
Kiana, you still with us?
Yeah, Dallas still here.
Yeah, I'm
Kiana,
here.
all right. Tanya, you still with us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Patsy?
yeah.
Okay. So I want to ask the ladies this. Patsy, being a white woman, and you friends of Kiana and Tanya, y'all associates, colleagues, um, you can't go to a restaurant with them after work or go out for lunch with them during this time because not to a white establishment, but you would have been able to go into a black establishment and have lunch with Kiana and Tanya. How first Patsy, then Tanya and Kiana. You tell me how you feel about that, Patsy. How would you? I don't know. How would that make you? How does that make you feel today? If that was to be the policy today, the practices today.
I think it'd be kind of weird, like, okay, we can't go to a white establishment, a white-owned establishment, because the fact that it's like we're mixed, a mixed group where I'm white, they're black, and I feel good that we can actually have lunch someplace, but it's still, I think I kind of feel bad that we can't go to let's say legal seafoods.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we could go to like a Waffle House where it's accepted that we could go there as a mixed group,
Mm-hmm.
So
Tanya,
kind of weird.
Tanya, you since go on and tell me about that. So how would you react in that situation? Segregation, being brought back up to current date, and you can't go into a white establishment with your white colleagues or friends or family members, for that matter. And but you can go and have lunch with them at a black establishment. Does that make you want to boycott this place? Does this make you want to throw what is it, a Monte Cartel to through the window?
No, no, they're not getting my money. Why would I want to go to into an establishment that don't want me there? Because of the color of my skin, I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to go there because they may do something to my food to begin with, and I would prefer to frequent my people establishment where I know I'm going to be treated with some respect. Who's I can't say that they will treat me with respect, but I'm welcome. You know what I mean? Because you can have some establishments that
You
just don't know how to give the proper service to begin with.
Okay. Kiana, same question.
I agree with Tanya. I would never spend my money where it's not appreciated. Why would I help establish a business that is against me? I would never spend my money there. And I would tell anybody I knew, don't go there either. So hopefully they lose business and they close down.
Mm-hmm.
Would I feel some type of way? No, I never go anywhere where I'm not wanted. I'm not trying to push myself on anybody who doesn't want me. I understand the need to be included, but I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel that way personally.
Okay, so same. Let's wait a minute, Timmy, because this was the other part of the question for the ladies. So again, you guys, the part about Patsy being present. Now you're going to a black establishment, and because they have this separation is equal. And what if the black people say they don't want Patsy there? How would you guys feel about that, Kiana?
That stuff was really happening.
Wait,
I
Kiana.
was I feel bad. I'm pretty sure it happened, but I feel like we've been more inclusive and welcoming than other people have been towards us.
But would you leave that establishment that is telling
I
your
mean,
friends?
if she's not welcome, if we're supposed to be going to lunch, I mean, that's not a place for us either. So we would either go somewhere, we would pack a lunch and have lunch in the park. I don't know. We wouldn't go there either.
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
I second that.
Yeah.
All right, because I wanted to see where y'all's head was at. Okay. So now I'm gonna ask the guys. Timmy, I'm gonna go to you first because I know you was about to say something, so I'm gonna go to you first. So now we're gonna talk about for the guys the separation in the bathroom. You know they had different bathrooms and stuff like that. You couldn't even use the same bathrooms, right? Now, I don't know. You got it. You work at this restaurant. You can't even use the bathroom inside this restaurant because they got a white only sign on it. And let's just say you got the bubble guts. Do
Gotta
you
go out
risk
in the
it?
back.
Do you risk it?
That's what I was gonna say.
Go ahead, Timmy. So how would you deal with that? It's an all white only sign on the door, and your stomach's messed up, but you work for this establishment and you got to use the bathroom. What do you do?
If it's locked, then I guess I'm gonna go outside and mess up the establishment on the outside. They'll be having to clean that up.
You gotta clean it up. You might lose your
Clean up
job too.
nothing because if I'm working here, I'm using the same bathroom that everybody else is using.
So
Now,
despite their rules,
in that case, if I can't use the bathroom, hey, they go to job. I ain't working there. You gonna try to keep me from using the bathroom, have me have them full enlarged bladder and stuff. Nah. But would you like now you have like you see with what's his name? Frank Sinatra did for Sammy Davis.
yeah.
He went in, they wouldn't serve him. Serve Sammy Davis. They didn't even want him coming through. And Frank said, listen, this is my boy. He's part of the Rat Pack. If you don't want him here, you don't want me here. And all my friends would leave, not come here. So, those are the type of things that, people have to stand up when they know people are being ignorant and racist. And I'm like that too. I'm not taking my friends, anybody that I know, I have people from overseas come here and stay with me. I ain't taking them nowhere where their life is in danger. I'm not taking them nowhere where they might not be accepted because they talk with an accent.
Okay. So Sean, how would you deal with that situation? They have a white only sign. You have to use the bathroom. What do you do?
Did you call on me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Honestly, it wouldn't bother me. I mean, especially if that's what the times were,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's today, that's somebody's establishment. I came into their place of business. If I saw it, I look at it, chuckle at it, and be like, you know what, it's still happening. Walk on out and going about my business.
Okay, that's a fair answer, Gregory. How would you deal? I'm afraid, but how would you deal with
I
that
was about
situation?
to tell you,
That
I wouldn't be working there with that sign on the front door, anyways. And if I seen it and I had to go, you know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna walk right behind it. I don't care if I gotta take a number two. I'm gonna shit on their building. Just because that's the type of establishment
But
that
do
you
you
have.
understand? You understand the question? It was the best practices back then brought up to present day. You wasn't going to be able to just show, like exhibit that type of behavior, and you wasn't going to be dealt with. They had laws and rules that they enforced back there violently. So you
And
wasn't
then I
supposed
felt
to.
like that pastor. What is wrong with you? Who decided? Yeah, I want to. I done cooked and cleaned for these people, and now I want to go eat in their restaurant. For what?
Okay, let's take it
I
a
can
step.
see them on the eating ours.
Let's take it a step further. They had rules against people of color being buried in white cemeteries. So, again, Patsy,
Hello. Hello.
Patsy, you have a
I'm trying to understand why I
Patsy,
didn't get asked the same
because
question the other men did.
we asked you, you wasn't there.
You didn't ask me at all. You went straight to everybody and didn't call my name once. But I'm gonna take it upon myself to answer that question now.
Patsy,
Back in the days, if I was working at a restaurant and they said that blacks could use this bathroom, whites can use that bathroom, the way I feel today in life, I don't put myself in predicaments that I'm going to feel uncomfortable. But I will share this with you, like I shared before on the podcast. We was in a similar predicament. Monroe had said blacks couldn't use the bathroom because we was all in the pub in their restaurant. When we walked in the bathroom, they started talking about a whole bunch of black people was in the bathroom. We was gonna rob the place. They called the police and surrounded us.
okay, so let me be clear about this. You guys, y'all know how this works. If we go around and I call your name, you don't answer.
You didn't call my name, David. It's
We're not.
evident. Everybody else would tell you the same. You didn't ask me yet.
If we go around and I
Uncle
don't
Rob,
hear
they
from you,
profiled
then
you.
I go to the next person.
I know,
I didn't
G.
know you was back in the rotation because you missed the other question.
I answered the last question too. You asked me how did I feel about something, and I answered it. I told you I wouldn't be able to live in that time.
Okay.
I said that's why I was born in the 1900s. God bless me. You said yeah, they would have killed you. I'm here, Dave,
So
on Earth
anyways,
with everyone else.
Patsy, what I was gonna ask you was, how do you feel about if you married to a person of color and your husband died and you had you planned to bury him, but they was telling you you can't bury him in this cemetery, but all your other family members are buried there, and your husband is your family member, and now that let's say you played for a plot, a two-person plot, and they're telling you you can't bury your husband in that cemetery because it's white only. How would you deal with that?
I be kind of pissed off, be like, yo, I'm white, and matter of fact, my ex-husband was black.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be kind of pissed off if we were still married and he died while we were still married. It's like, wait a minute, my money was good when you took it. So you know what? If my money's good enough for you to take for me to bury my husband, guess what? You MF, my husband's getting buried here. I don't care. I'm gonna get the law. Y'all gonna put this man in the ground.
So you feel very strongly about that.
Yep.
So
no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Okay, so I'll ask you guys, and let's be clear about this too. I asked certain members on the panel certain questions because I wanted their perspective on it. That's why I didn't ask certain people certain questions. So pay attention to the rotation. So again, Gregory, let's go to the integration video.
In the landmark case Brown versus the Board of Education, held that racial segregation in public schools was unconstitutional. Where desegregation was accepted and implemented, the strategy was successful. But in many parts of the country, it would take much more than a court order to change public opinion rooted in centuries of anti-Black racism. Politicians in county and state governments across the South found ways to go around the laws. Sometimes they slashed state funding for public schools that integrated. Sometimes they supported private academies attended predominantly by white students.
The main thrust behind African American interest in desegregating was a desire for access to quality education. They understood that dollars followed white children into white schools.
Nearly 20 years after the Brown decision, many schools remained segregated, even in the North. And nowhere was this more evident than in Boston, Massachusetts. In response, the NAACP presented a class action suit demanding that schools and educational officials should act. In 1974, a federal judge in Massachusetts ruled that students in Boston would be bused from one neighborhood to another neighborhood to balance school systems racially.
Working class whites, one of the things that they have been able to benefit from is being able to send their children to all white schools and the resources and the privilege that comes along with that. And now they're being asked to give that up.
In South Boston, as many as 18,000 students were forced to attend new schools. Angry protesters carried signs, hurled bricks at buses, and blocked school entrances. Opposition to integration continued well after the initial violence subsided. Many middle-class white families moved to the suburbs, abandoning the city's public school system. 60 years after Brown v. Board of Education, American classrooms remain shockingly segregated. A direct result of families continuing to move to the suburbs, taking public funding based on property taxes along with them. The goals of Brown v. Board remain unfulfilled, even though its spirit lives on.
Okay, let's talk about it. So we went from emancipation to segregation to integration. So we went from having separate schools, bathrooms, restaurants, places of entertainment, cemetery, even housing, locations, communities and stuff like that. So now it almost seems like that this education, the integration, the desegregation, when it came to schooling, was like the prelude to integration. So now you have in certain states where people they didn't want the children, the people of color, to go to school with the white children because they was used to the segregation. Again, they said separate's equal, but you don't want the children of color to go to school with your children. So how can they be equal? Now, see, these are the best practices of adult races. People that are this hate is deeply entrenched in them, deeply rooted. So
the kids are not racist. Kids are not racist.
That's why I said the adults. So this is why you would have these same individuals, they're out there throwing bricks and stuff at the buses, trying to cause other people's children harm. So you're teaching your children that this behavior is acceptable. So again,
some of them have their kids with them, right there in the trenches.
The sad part is the Black people was teaching their kids that they need to go to these schools for their resources.
Well,
and then they're teaching their kids, throw rocks at them.
well, at that point, like in some
You had
situations,
to defend yourself now.
if you listen to the video, in some situations you didn't have a choice because it was zoning and they bust you out. So you
Right.
had to go to those schools. And in fact, many of us, we benefited from the integration because you received, as we came along, as we got older, we had the privilege of going to schools that was outside of our neighborhoods, probably better location, probably better supplies and stuff like that. And you learn diversity, multicultural because you went to school with other kids outside of your community, kids that you see all the time in your neighborhood. You had that privilege, that option of going to other schools.
Not only that, Dave, our family has that anyway, period.
Well, we know that.
And you know, our aunts and uncles' friends, they had white friends that came to our cookouts and stuff and had good time and stuff.
Well, it wasn't too much of an issue when it came to integration in our family because it was something that was always there. Due to the marriages and interactions and other stuff like that. So that was always prevalent. It was there. It was a part of our culture. But so let's talk about this integration. So now you got these kids, and this was close to home. This was Boston. If you guys heard, that was one of the biggest cases. So I think that was South Boston, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Deli
what it
said
was.
she was going through it earlier,
Yes.
and Grams told me that she went through this.
Yeah, that's a bad hit. But see, again, because of that, the integration and stuff like that, and I want to be clear about this. So it seems like, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but in some cases, do you think that we have gone backwards because we fought so hard to be included, right? And some might say, you know, and this is not what I'm saying. This is what the people that are against it. They're saying that's the same thing with the what do we call them? What do we call them, Sean? The HBCUs or HBUCs?
HBCU.
Okay, so again, are those predominantly black, all black colleges?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what I'm gonna say. So it seems like in some situations, the separation is still the best practice. At least when it comes to education, because black people have developed a higher education, a higher learning establishments that basically are geared more towards the educating of their own.
So you tell me at all these black colleges, it's just black students or predominantly black students?
Yeah,
Because
Yes,
predominantly black
Predominantly.
I'm pretty sure
yes.
there's white students that go there because they want to get that education that's in that school, or
That's
they grew up with a bunch of black folks.
that's
They
my
grew up
point.
around them.
That's my point, Timmy. They have the privilege, they have the option of doing so now, but at one point, these HBCUs they came about due to the segregation and stuff like that. And so now,
Yeah, but
present
even
day,
back then, right? Because even back then, you had the Booker T and Thurgood Marshall who was running the college. No college wanted to see Thurgood go to school, right? And when he was moving from town to town, going to schools and stuff, right, getting his education, and he moved in with a white family who told him to go to Skeety, and he went there and asked them, could he come to their school? They said, sure, you're accepted. we accept you. And he went there, he excelled, and then now that he became a great agriculture. He's the leading agriculture of the world at one time.
Okay, so let me stop y'all because we are fastly approaching the 9 o'clock hour. And I want to get to those other videos. Let me just ask y'all real quick. So do you think, and I'm gonna go to Rob first, do you think that the segregation, the separation, whereas it came to the schools, benefited people of color present day? Because we now have the HBCUs that's a prominent part of our Black education and culture. Robert?
Hey, sir, you turned your camera on.
Again,
Robert?
He's on mute.
Could you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my camera's off, Gregory?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, this you want to ask me how do I feel about the separation or putting them back together?
I said, do you feel that the separation, segregation of the time before now, did it benefit us in the form of the HBCUs?
I feel about all Black school. It's just, I'm gonna tell you my true feelings. I don't think they need it, but they feel they need it because they want to make somebodies in the world. I think that you could have learned in the school whites, Puerto Ricans, Chinese. They could have still been mixed, but when it comes to all Black school or all white school, I think some crooked stuff was going on. We, as Black people, want to be recognized so bad. We can fix the scores, the grades, and all of that in those schools now because we have it under our control. So I can make Dennis really look like he knows some things and put some grades together for him.
I know you're waiting to jump right in. Go ahead, Kiana.
Okay, it wasn't HBCU people who are cheating to get their kids in colleges who just had to go to court and go to spend time in jail, stars and others. So don't go here with that. Don't be trying to use us as no scapegoat for some
as I
kind of
said, they can
underhanded
do the
stuff.
same thing that the people done
No,
before they
the
got their own school.
HBCUs were
Believe me, it's
established
happening.
because we were not wanted in white schools, so we established our own. If you're not going to
Kiana,
give us
when
the
the day
education, we're going to
comes,
get an education on our own.
all
So
right,
that
so
never
when the
stopped.
day comes and they shine a day of light on what I just said, we'll be talking about it on this podcast.
Oh, we definitely will. But as
We will, but
today, she's speaking on what you just said. Continue.
so yeah, so those stars who did their time and coming out of jail, they didn't come from HBCU colleges. So zip it, buddy. I feel like the schools are still necessary. Because there's still people
You
talk about
breaking
affirmative
up a little bit.
action. Affirmative action is giving people too much headway and turning other people away, and that is not the only criteria for getting into a college. So if you feel like zapping out, I don't want to say zapping out, but eliminating prejudice or racism out of your curriculum so that you can focus on your studies, by all means, let it be that.
Okay. Tanya, you have at it. How you feel about that? Tanya, you gotta take your phone off mute.
Hold on. Yeah, I think Harvard has an affirmative action suit going on right now where they're saying where you have some white students that are
It's
saying
Asian
that.
students.
Is it the Asian students?
Yes, it's the Asian students.
Yeah.
What are they saying?
Go ahead, Tanya.
They're saying that the affirmative action allowing Black students to come in is keeping them from being able to get in.
Sean, you want to speak on that?
On what Tanya just said?
All of it.
Oh, I mean, I pretty much agree with what everyone is saying. Is we're gonna always be in this battle. As long as this earth exists, this is how it's going to function, because at the end of the day, it's all about power. And those that are trying to hold on to the power are going to fight and do everything that they can to make sure that that stays in place. And so we're going to always have these differences. We're going to always be in a place where, we're going to want to be included and I think that's one of our biggest problems, that we still want to be included as opposed to just being.
So I just want to be clear about this, just for all the listeners at home, including the people on the panel. So when you say you agree with everybody, do you also agree with the part about the separation of whereas the HBCUs is unnecessary because there are some doctoring of grades and trying to make those students look like they're more intelligent than they really are?
No, I thought we had already. I thought when Kay spoke, she eliminated that part of the conversation.
Okay, all right. And young Gregory, how do you feel about the HBCUs?
I was gonna say to sum it all up. Have you ever thought about like being in a war with somebody and then the war just suddenly stops and then you turn to your enemy and say, "Hey, can you teach my kids?" Instead of us being a community, because our community is broken, and you having a neighbor around that isn't educated. This is like something that should have been going on a long time ago. The neighbor's an educator, and now we're sending all our kids to this educator instead of the enemy educator that we know was just hanging our kids last week in the field. Well, now, because everything's supposed to be integrated now because you're free, you think this lady wants to teach you? No. So it makes sense that we have the HBCUs, because if we didn't have it, you wouldn't have your own people teaching your own people the stuff that they need to learn to get out there in the world, be somebody.
And I agree, because
and also to teach the other race, because they're not really teaching it in their school. That's why it's so divided now, and they trying to wipe out the history of the Black. We were never looked at as human beings to begin with, and so they're trying to erase everything that we did for this country, what was created, how we helped to build it up. They're trying to wipe all of that out so that they can put themselves up, so that they can stay in the higher plane and keep us in the inferior plane.
Patsy, so I'm gonna ask you about this, because here we go. There's always the so-called majority that has something to say about the minority, the opportunities that they're given, but they figure, special treatment. So whereas you have the Asian students complaining about what did you call it, Tanya?
They talk about the same thing that we was talking about.
Tanya,
they feel like they being
what did you refer to it as? Affirmative action? That's the reason?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, Patsy, how do you feel about those okay, so this is, I'm going to put it to you like this. Like Gregory said, we sending our children to other places to get education, stuff like that. But that's what people do all around the world. They send their brightest students to give them, or supposedly give them a leg up on the rest. So this is what's happening you live in America, you supposedly, it's the land of opportunity, land of milk and honey and stuff like that, right? So now when you have people that either born into this country or because they identify with they said Asian, right? They made that distinction, right? They didn't say
Yeah.
Asian Americans, they said Asians. So I'm going to approach it like that. So now you have these individuals that are going to have something to say about the people that have been on the bottom end
All the time.
since the
Yeah,
beginning.
I get that. Like, affirmative action is to help place Black Americans or lower income, that if you didn't have the means or you didn't really make the grade, so it's kind of like adjusted to, so that way, like, any of us wanting to go to Harvard or MIT, there would be the ability to be able to do that through affirmative action. And it's nothing to say that anyone's trying to take away from Asians, because reality is someone of Asian descent, whether they're born here or if they've come from another country getting into these schools, they're more accepted in there than a Black American that was born and raised here, went to school in this country, got their SATs, got about the average rate of grade on that SAT. They got like on the higher end, middle to higher end of the SAT, where it's passable for you to be able to get into Harvard, MIT, or any of these Ivy Leagues or good graded schools, you'd be able to get in there through SAT, through affirmative action, because if it wasn't so, like, these schools would not be forced to accept or make accommodations, so that way they would be able to accept students otherwise.
And let's be clear about these are higher caliber education wise. These people that are given these opportunities, they're not just taking students that are not good. Whereas it comes to their grades and stuff like that, this is financial opportunity, financial assistance and stuff like that. So again, somebody that is given born into wealth in some sense, or come to this country so that they can receive better opportunities, I don't understand why they would frown upon someone else receiving those same opportunities when they say that it's supposed
because they want to knock them.
Because a lot of people
They
believe
want to
that
knock
affirmative
them
action is
out of
just for Black
position so
people.
they could be the only one getting it.
But it isn't. That's the reason why a white man could get these Asian students to go against affirmative action, because in reality, affirmative action would help them, not hurt them. So this person has twisted it because he wants to have a race eliminated, because I just looked it up, eliminated from the criteria of being accepted into the school. So he wants a race eliminated completely.
So let me go ahead, Kim. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
And affirmative action is basically, yes, all of these students are good students, but you cannot discriminate against these students because they are of a certain race or gender.
Or social status, economics status. Now, and let me be clear about this. Again, it's the oldest trick in the book. If I tell you something about these individuals and I say it loud enough and long enough, get enough people to support it, well, I can convince the world that that is true. If a lot of people doing it, and again, this is the reason why we go back to the whole slavery part. They didn't want all the slaves to learn how to read. They didn't want you to become educated because again, this is not about being equal. This is keeping you oppressed,
Stupid.
keeping you beneath them. I don't even know if this is just about being stupid, Timmy. You take away the education too, it's about taking away other opportunities that come.
I mean, but you can't take away their natural born skills that they had to survive, period. So the things that they created and the things that they did was impressive enough that you like, wow, they did all this, they survived off of it, you know, like about the slave, the cooking and stuff. You know, the masters had the best cut of the meat and whatnot, and the slaves had whatever the scraps, the like gizzards and liver and stuff like that.
The stuff they was gonna discard.
They was going that they was going to discard, and so the black folks, the slaves, cook that stuff up. They come out there tasting, wow, goddamn, that's the best tasting stuff that I ever had. You know, now they want you to go in the house and cook that for their guests that's coming to the party that night.
Okay, so
and then that becomes a hit.
Now, is that a gift or is that you just surviving?
That's a little bit of both. But Gregory, let's go on to this because we're getting late. So let's go to those last two videos. You can show those back to back. The ones. So guys, we done went from emancipation to segregation, to integration. Let's talk about a nation celebration. Celebration of a nation.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
That I will execute
the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States faithfully.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President. All the best wishes.
Of the United States, John G. Roberts, Jr., who will administer the presidential oath of office. Everyone, please rise.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
Preserve, protect, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Okay, so let's get right to it. How did that make you guys feel seeing that again after all these years? I mean, I just view that as a very big part of our Black history. That was a great accomplishment. First Black president. I'm God willing, within our lifetime, we'll see more. Or even after we're gone, that's the beginning of a tradition that we'll have more men and women of color at the highest level of government. But what I wanted to point out, I don't know if you guys noticed this, in the first one, there was a lot of like background interference. There were sirens and all that other stuff that was going on during that. Did you guys notice that?
They had to make sure because they wanted to kill that dude.
Well, we're talking about celebration. It was celebratory moment. We don't talk about nothing bad. We see enough of that as
that's why you heard all the police cars. They making sure they got people in position.
All right.
He was the most threatened president. His
Even
life was
before
the
he
most
became
threatened.
president on the campaign trail.
Well, you see, you see what he brought to office.
But here's a fun fact. Do y'all know whatchamacallit, T-Pain and DJ Khaled song Obama came out to it on his second win of the presidency. He came out to it. All I do is win.
No matter what.
Yep, all I do is win.
Well, that should be our mantra. Patsy, how did watching that again? I mean, where was you when that happened? The first and second time, what was you doing? What was you doing in life?
The second time I was definitely with my ex-husband in Alabama. So I think the first time I was still up here, But it actually feels good to actually have a Black president in this country, even though like there really hasn't been any before since him as president, but it just shows that we're making progress, little by little. He might be the first Black president, but it's not to say that we're not going to get another one. It might take a while for people to really get that in their mindset that this is possible.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. We teach our kids and grandkids, shoot for the stars. You never know where you're gonna go, because we could reflect and show this man made it, and we actually ended up getting like a first female Black vice president in office just a couple of years ago. So anything is possible. We're making progress. We might be taking small steps in the progress, but we're pushing it through. It's like if you fight hard enough, you pursue hard enough, and you educate yourself well, and you really push out there for your own personal rights, whether it's as a Black person, as a woman, anything is possible if you set your mind to it, because without God, you're not gonna achieve anything.
All right, I like
But
that.
you just gotta push it there and say, I can do it, and it's like um it's like it's your own talking and your own self to your own self and saying, I can do this, and it's really not. You might have some really supportive family members, but you got a whole lot more people that are gonna talk against you, and then you gotta black out those haters and really listen to those supporting people that are really caring and loving and say and believe in you as a person that this is possible if you only take a minute to really say I can do.
Okay. Robert, how do you feel about that? How did that make you feel being, living, being alive to witness this? First black president, not just one term, 2 terms.
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say one word: happy.
Okay. Gregory, how did it make you feel being able to witness that? Gregory? All right, Timmy, go ahead. How did it make you feel?
It made me feel I was great to see it, because just to see the elders before me, our elders that came up through all the struggles, and they probably wish it was a black president, and then they said, well, we probably never gonna get to see a black president in our lifetime, right? And then all of a sudden, a lot of them that thought they wasn't never gonna see a black president got a chance to see a black president. But from what I've read, he's not the first.
That's right.
He's not the first. Uh, if if you
He's
go
not,
back
because
and
this
listen,
stolen nation comes.
because
I'm gonna let everybody finish and then bring back.
you had a lot of light-skinned black folks that passed themselves off as white. And because they passed themselves off as white, they got accepted.
All right, so
because of their light-skinned complexion.
all right, so let me say this to you guys, just so we stay to the point. We're not gonna darken what he accomplished by talking about what might have happened, because we don't know if it's factual, because unless you can cite your sources, then
Oh yeah, Dave. I was just watching
Then recite your
about
source,
the
but I want to
president.
remind them of what I said earlier too.
Okay, but
You was taught a certain way because they thought you were stupid, so they can tell you anything.
okay, so we're gonna go to Sean.
There's a lot of light-skinned people that you think are white and they're really black, but they're passing themselves off as white, just to get, to get the riches and get the acceptance.
Mm-hmm. All right, Sean, you want to speak on this?
Watching that again just reminded me of that had to be the greatest event that's happened in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was a proud moment. It was something that I was happy to see, happy to be a part of, happy to, witness and be able to say that, I saw that in my lifetime.
All right, that's straight to the point. Gregory, do you want to chime in?
My fault. I was muted. You know how I feel about this situation. I'm turned back into that bed. What's wrong with you? I'll play with
All
you.
right,
I
so
seen one of my cousins had an anxiety attack during one of these. It was crazy. He said, "Oh my God, we got a black president. Our lives are gonna change." It's so crazy the way that we think as people.
all right, well, that's how you feel about it. Kiana?
Yes. It was nice to see. It was you know, at the time it was very memorable and very happy times, of course. Still always had a held breath that something was going to happen, and thank the Lord nothing did happen to him or his family. It just reminds me how far from civility we are this many years later. It's almost like a parallel universe of how one administration could be so disgusting compared to what we just saw, and everything that fell with that.
Tanya?
Yeah, it was a highlight. It was something I thought I would never see in my lifetime. I was glad that my father and my mother got a chance to see this happen. You know, my aunts, those who came up in the struggle, like someone said, that they were able to witness this. And like Kiana said, when he became president, you know, you spent those 4 years holding your breath because you thought something was gonna happen to him. Not only did he get nominated, he became president once, but he was president for 8 years. You know, and so the only downside that I can say that I found with this was that how us as a people assumed that because we had a black president that our lives were going to change. They forgot about the whole fact about the establishment that wanted to keep us in bondage and continue to have the power. I don't know what they thought he was going to be able to get in office and accomplish right off the bat, thinking that lives were going to change immediately when you had people that was fighting against equality for us, and on every turn, look how long it took him or how hard he had to fight just to get health coverage for everyone.
Well, I'll say this. So,
and look at his gray hair. Look
went,
at that gray hair he got from being in office 8 years.
And that boy's head turned gray after a month of being in the office.
There's a saying about that.
It was electrical.
Men with gray hair, especially when they have gray sideburns and stuff like that, is distinguishing for men. So let me say this to you guys, and so we're gonna end this. We went from emancipation to segregation to integration to a nation celebration back to devastation. But if we, as the Black nation, if we've endured all that and overcome so much more, we will basically overcome this current situation as well with this whole issue where you have to try to convince people that Black Lives Matter, or try to still be fighting for reparations, 40 acres and a mule, just basically wanting to be acknowledged that you're human. It's sad because what it's come down to, and I've said this several times on this platform, they seem to value the life of animals more than they value the lives of people of color. And I don't get it, because they often refer to us as animals. So I think you pick and choose what animals you want to show love to and kindness. And the very individuals that will call us savages and talk about terrorism are hence what they said in the earlier video during segregation. They referred, these are not my words, these are their words, the KKK is a terrorist group. Now, these are the same individuals that sit in the highest offices of government. So like Gregory has said to me, in a lot of cases, right after these individuals make their speeches, they don their hoods and they go out to the world. We're not, they're not in fear of us, but that's what they often say they are. We've been living since emancipation to current date in fear of what they would do to us. You know, but again, I will say this, I'll go back and say it again. If we survived emancipation, segregation, integration, and live to see or witness or partake in the nation celebration, Black nation celebration, and you know, I'm gonna say the nation as a whole, because Black, whites, everybody got to be a part of that celebration. That was a true, I'm gonna say a glimpse into what our Americas could be. And I'm referring to it as Americas because before, that's what they used to refer to America as, the Americas. That's because even back then, America was divided, and they're trying their hardest to keep us divided. This has been the Still a Man podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. God bless you all. See you next week.